Hello again. In part 2, we will talk about models of probability, advisability, suggestion, and preference. Let's start from the models of probability. We use can't or couldn't when we are almost certain that something is impossible or improbable. In other words, there is almost zero chance that this can happen. Let's see these example sentences. Your brother says he is very hungry. No, he can't or couldn't be hungry. We have just eaten 2 big burgers each. Can't and couldn't show impossibility here because they have just eaten 2 big burgers, so there is zero chance that he is hungry. This shows a present probability. However, we don't generally use can't and couldn't for future probability. The second set of models is may, might, and could. These models are used when we are not certain but making a guess about a present or future event. Why is Robert at home today? Well, I don't know. He may, might, could be ill. In this sentence, David is making a guess about Robert, although he is uncertain. More people might, may, could work from home in the future. The second sentence also shows a guess about a future event. As you see in these sentences, we use the base form of the verb after these models. Another model of probability is should, which is used to express probabilities that we are quite certain about. They should be out for lunch. They usually are at this time of the day. In this sentence, the speaker is quite certain that they are out for lunch because they usually have lunch at this time of the day. So we can say that this sentence shows a probability about a present event. The game should start in a few minutes. This sentence also expresses a probability about a future event because of the time expression in a few minutes at the end of the sentence. As you see in the examples, we use the base form of the verb after should. Let's move on to must. In addition to its meaning of obligation, must also has a meaning of probability. We use must when we are almost certain about what we say. Remember that the possibility is really high with must. Your sister isn't eating her dinner. Well, she must be full. In this sentence, there is a really high possibility that she is not hungry because she generally eats everything on her plate when she is hungry. As you see in the example, we use the base form of the verb after must. And we only use must for present probabilities, not for future probabilities. The second group of models in part 2 is models of advisability. We use 3 main models to express advice, which are should, ought to, and had better. Let's start with should and ought to. They have the same meaning and express advice. We use the base form of the verb after these models. Please remember that in negative sentences, not goes between ought and to. As for had better, we use it for giving advice like should and ought to. But had better emphasizes negative results. In other words, in addition to the meaning of advice, had better also includes the negative result if the subject fails to take the advice. I had better finish revising the exam topics tonight, or I will fail the exam tomorrow. In this example sentence, the advice is finishing revising the topics, and the negative result is failing the exam. He had better not spend all his money on clothes, or he will end up broke soon. Remember that not goes between had better and the verb. Although had better looks like a past modal, it is a present modal. The third group of modals in part 2 is modals of suggestion. We will talk about might and could. They are used to make suggestions. Might is often used with want to. You might want to practice your speech before a meeting. You might bring your own racket, or you could rent one at the gym. In both of these sentences, the modals are giving suggestions about what to do. Remember that we use the base form of the verb after might and could. The fourth group of modals is modals of preference. We use would rather and would prefer to express preferences. Let's start with would prefer to. He would prefer to watch the movie at home. In this sentence, we understand that his preference is watching the movie at home. He would prefer not to go to the cinema to see the movie. Remember that in negative sentences, not is used after would prefer and before to. We can also use the verb without would and use the verb prefer in any tense. So, he would prefer to watch the movie at home and he prefers to watch the movie at home have the same meaning. The second modal is would rather. It is used to talk about preferences too. Jason would rather drink coffee early in the morning. I would rather not tell him the news. It is really depressing. We use the base form of the verb after would rather. And in negative sentences, not goes between would rather and the verb. Would you rather have a pizza or a burger? Or would you prefer to have a pizza or a burger? Have the same meaning. We can make comparisons with would rather and would prefer to and then or rather than. In these two sentences, we understand that reading something is the preference of the subject, not watching TV. This is the end of part 2.